There is a tire running the streets of a small city in Japan right now that has never once needed air. Not low on air. Not topped up with air. Never had any air in it at all. Not on the day it rolled off the production line. Not after months of daily driving over gravel, curbs, and the kind of potholes that usually end with a driver on the shoulder swearing at a jack. You could drive a screwdriver straight through the middle of this tire, and it would keep going, at the same speed, in the same straight line, with the driver never even noticing engineers spent 18 years trying to make that sentence true. And this year, in a quiet city west of Kyoto, it finally became true for real vehicles, on real roads, carrying real passengers. So why isn't this everywhere yet? Why did it take almost 2 decades? And why, of all countries, is it Japan writing the ending to a story every driver has been waiting for since the first rubber tire ever went flat? That's what this is about. Every tire on every car in the world is built around the same basic idea, and that idea hasn't changed much since bicycle tires first showed up in the 1880s. Take a rubber loop, seal it shut, and pump it full of compressed air. The air is doing almost all the real work. It holds the tire's shape. It carries the weight of the vehicle, and it soaks up the shock of every bump so the ride feels smooth instead of bone rattling. The rubber around it is really just a container. It's a brilliant idea. It's also, if you think about it for more than a few seconds, a strange one. The single component holding up a 2-ton vehicle at highway speed is a pocket of gas sealed inside a strip of rubber a few millimeters thick. One nail, one shard of glass, one sharp piece of road debris in exactly the wrong place, and that entire support system can empty out in under a minute for well over a century. That's simply been accepted as the price of driving. You carry a spare. You learn to check your tire pressure. You keep a number for roadside assistance saved in your phone. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that at any moment, on any drive, a single sharp object could turn your car into 3 sorry pounds of metal, sitting motionless on the shoulder. Tire engineers have known this was the industry's biggest unsolved problem for decades. The obvious fix, get rid of the air entirely, sounds simple. Getting it to actually work turned out to be one of the hardest material science problems in the entire automotive world. 2 of Japan's biggest tire manufacturers picked up that challenge and never really put it down. Toyo Tire started first. Back in 2006, its engineers began developing something they eventually called the no-air tire, a wheel built not around a chamber of gas, but around 50 sets of cross-shaped resin rods, arranged in a ring between the rim and the outer tread. When the tire rolls over a bump, the rods flatten and flex exactly where the tire meets the road, then spring back into shape as the wheel turns past that point. No chamber, no seal, nothing that can be punctured. Toyo tested it first at low speeds, then pushed further. Eventually, the company took a no-air prototype to a park in Osaka and ran it on an actual passenger car in front of the public, the first time any tire maker had demonstrated an airless design that way. By that stage, the tire could handle speeds up to roughly 120 kilometers per hour. A genuine leap from the slow-speed prototypes the industry had been fiddling with for years. Sumitomo Rubber, the company behind the Dunlop and Falcon brands, took its own run at the same problem. At the Tokyo Motor Show, it unveiled something called Gyro Blade, a tire tread mounted on a spoked support structure designed to eliminate flats entirely, alongside a separate sealant technology meant to patch small punctures on ordinary tires before they ever went flat. 2 different solutions, aimed at the same target from 2 different directions. But it was Bridgestone that turned this from a motor show curiosity into something people could actually watch. Drive past them. Bridgestone built its first working airless prototype in 2008. If you'd seen it back then, you might not have been impressed. A boxy little wheel on a slow-moving concept vehicle, more proof of concept than product. It looked less like the future of the automobile and more like something you'd find bolted to a golf cart. That comparison turns out to be exactly the point engineers kept refining it for years. The company unveiled its next major version in 2012, showing off a bright green, airless concept tire on the Tokyo Motor Show floor, mounted to an electric scooter, eye-catching, but still a demonstration piece, rather than a real product. Behind the scenes, Bridgestone kept pushing on the two problems that had quietly killed every airless tire concept before it. The material had to survive years of real-world abuse without cracking, and it had to do that without turning every car ride into something you'd feel in your spine. The company's engineers eventually stopped trying to brute force the material into being harder and tougher. Instead, they rebuilt the whole approach around a flexible thermoplastic resin shaped into spokes that spread the vehicle's weight evenly across the entire structure rather than concentrating stress in one spot. A third-generation version arrived in 2023, tougher and more refined than anything that came before it. It had taken 15 years to get there. Then this year, something changed. Bridgestone didn't unveil another concept. It didn't wheel out another motor show prototype under studio lighting. It quietly put its air-free tires into actual commercial service. The rollout didn't happen in Tokyo, and it wasn't announced with fireworks. It happened in Higashiomi, a city west of Kyoto, on a small fleet of self-driving shuttles built to ferry elderly residents around town vehicles that look something like stretched-out golf carts. It doesn't sound dramatic. That's exactly why it matters. These shuttles run every day, on ordinary streets, carrying real people who need to get somewhere, and their tires painted a vivid shade. Bridgestone calls empowering blue, chosen specifically so the vehicles stand out for safety, genuinely cannot go flat. There's no chamber of compressed air inside them to lose. Run one over broken glass, over a nail, over the kind of debris that would strand an ordinary car on the shoulder, and the shuttle simply keeps rolling. This marked the first time Bridgestone's air-free tires had gone into regular, everyday commercial use, rather than a limited demonstration or a short-term trial. 18 years after that first 2008 prototype, a tire that could never go flat wasn't a concept anymore. It was giving rides to actual passengers, every day, on actual streets. There's a catch, and it's an important one. The shuttles in Higashiomi are capped at around 12 miles per hour, barely faster than a brisk jog. That's not a marketing choice. It's the honest limit of where the technology currently stands. Here's the part that explains almost everything about why this took 18 years, and why you still can't buy these for your own car. The first problem is heat. A normal tire gets some natural cooling from the air trapped inside it, and the airflow moving through the wheel well. An airless tire is a dense, continuous structure of resin that flexes with every single rotation, and that constant flexing generates heat with nowhere convenient to escape. At 12 miles an hour on a short shuttle route, that's a non-issue. At highway speed, sustained for hours, it becomes a serious engineering problem. Heat is one of the main reasons these designs have struggled to make the leap from slow, short-range vehicles to full-speed passenger cars. The second problem is weight. Replacing a chamber of compressed air with a physical structure of resin and rubber means adding material, and added material means added weight. A real obstacle for fuel economy, and an even bigger one for electric vehicles, where every extra pound eats directly into driving range. And then there's the plainest obstacle of all. A tire is a legally regulated safety component. Before Bridgestone, Toyo or anyone else can sell an airless tire for a standard passenger car. It has to prove itself through years of rigorous testing, across heat, cold wear, and the specific way real roads actually behave over hundreds of thousands of miles. That process doesn't move faster just because the underlying idea is brilliant. Bridgestone itself hasn't committed to a firm timeline for mass production yet, and is reportedly still weighing whether the tires should be sold outright or bundled with a service model that includes recycling the material once it wears out. None of these are questions about whether the idea works. It clearly does. You can watch it working on video every day in Higashiomi. They're questions about scaling something that works perfectly at 12 miles per hour up to something that can survive 70 miles per hour on a summer highway for years without failing. This is the part of the story that usually gets skipped, and it's the most telling part of all. Bridgestone isn't only thinking about city streets. The same air-free design philosophy is reportedly being adapted into a version built for lunar rovers. using a metal structure derived from the same flexible spoke concept, a tire designed for a world where a flat isn't an inconvenience. It's potentially mission-ending. And there's no gas station or roadside mechanic within 240 Saozo-Zeron miles. That a Japanese tire maker's shuttle-scale technology on Earth shares its DNA with something being developed for the surface of the moon tells you how seriously this idea is being taken at every level. Back on Earth, the pattern is a familiar one in Japanese manufacturing. Prove a technology in a small, forgiving, low-speed environment, first a retirement shuttle, a delivery cart, a warehouse robot, let it rack up real-world miles, then work the material and the manufacturing process until it's tough enough and cheap enough to earn its way up into a full passenger vehicle. Toyo Tire has followed roughly the same arc, from its earliest low-speed prototypes in 2006 to a passenger car demonstration reaching 120 kilometers per hour. Bridgestone has now taken that arc one step further than anyone else, putting real passengers on real airless tires in daily commercial service. None of this means you'll be buying a set for your sedan next spring. The tires still need to survive at far higher speeds, shed heat far more effectively, and shave off weight before they can sit under an ordinary car in ordinary traffic. But the gap between impossible concept and already happening just closed by an enormous margin, and it closed in Japan. For 140 years, every car on Earth has depended on trapped air to stay upright, the same fragile, brilliant idea, one puncture away from failure, in nearly every driveway on the planet. In one Japanese city, on one small fleet of shuttles, that idea has already stopped being necessary. The only question left is how long it takes for the rest of the road to catch up